Right, so today I want to talk about this story out of the Post Millennial, and it's titled City of Edmonton Had Children Listen to Extinction Rebellion Activists on Climate Change. And this kind of stuff's just really starting to bother me. I'm sure most people, when they hear this title, it's like, oh my God, this stuff's getting so bad. And like, this is kind of where we're at in society nowadays that the first thing I wanted to point out too is I was reading a story today about Patrick Moore. He's one of the co-founders or founder of Greenpeace. He's now kind of an outspoken guy on climate change. He's one of the most prominent climate change skeptics in the world, I would say. And he was invited to speak at a conference in Regina, and after amassed pretty good amount of outcry, I'm guessing he was uninvited basically. And that's where we're at. That one side gets a voice to brainwash kids and to talk to kids about their movement that not only is there no science behind it, but it is rather radical in the sense that it's not a moderate thing. I mean, these kind of people are the kind of people that are big on the Green New Deal, that are, Greta Thunberg is, one of these kind of people that, I mean, I don't know if Greta Thunberg has been with them, but I know they have spoken rather glowingly of each other before. And Greta Thunberg is calling for a total end to fossil fuels, literally none. That if it was up to them, and I'm guessing Extinction Rebellion is similar in this way, that they want literally no fossil fuels, and that's physically not possible. If that were to happen, especially in the winter time, most of Canada would die, like literally. It's too cold. I mean, especially in Edmonton. Like Edmonton's one of the coldest cities in Canada, at least major cities, and I mean, imagine if the power went out when it was minus 20 or 30, like most people would be dead in a day, like literally. Um, it'd be chaos too, like, like I wouldn't even want to imagine. And it just goes to show just how crazy these kind of people are. And and then again, the other thing I wanted to point out, like I already pointed out too, is that the left loves to preach about diversity and how great diversity is, but yet they ban Patrick Moore, who Patrick Moore isn't radical in any way, shape, or form. He just disagrees with the left on climate change. And but yet he's not allowed to speak. But these people who are not only are they climate change, people that believe in climate change, they're pretty radical, even for people that believe in climate change. So again, the other thing too, for all the lefties watching this video, like, I mean, either admit you're a massive hypocrite or allow people like Patrick Moore to speak, and at the very least, we can have a discussion. And that's one of I was listening to a podcast on this recently about cults. And I'm not saying that, I mean, I think that some of these left wing groups are cults or borderline cults. I would say that a lot of these climate change groups are literally are cults. But anyway, regardless of whether or not they are, one of the first things and the main things that cults do and cults emphasize is that they don't allow any opposing viewpoints, and they silence opposing viewpoints, and they don't even entertain them. And it's not the climate change skeptics that are the ones that don't want to have the conversation. It's the other way around. So it just goes to show that the radical ones are the climate change believers. And like I say, there's no science behind it. It's when you look at the amount of money, like, and the left always accuses climate change skeptics of being paid off by big oil, even though far more money is available for people that believe in climate change, perpetrate climate change, than oil companies pay out. Not only that, you've had Saudi oil companies, or the Saudis, and you've had American oil companies pay for anti-pipeline and anti-oil sands protests in Alberta. I mean, that's happened. That's a fact, and that doesn't make sense too. Like, does that happen on the other way around? No, it doesn't. So this idea that, oh, if you are against climate, or if you're a climate change skeptic, you're paid off by big oil. No, that's the overwhelming majority of the time that's not true. And the left has never actually provided examples of these kind. They've never actually proven. Like, can you think of one? I'd like to see. Show me one climate change skeptic that the left can definitively prove is paid off by big oil. But yet, most of these prominent climate change people benefit massively financially off believing climate change. Take Al Gore. Al Gore, I don't remember when it was, but he came to Edmonton and Calgary to speak. It was, a $500,000 a speech. He did it back to back. He made $1 million in a weekend. $1 million in a weekend speaking in Edmonton and Calgary. But yet there's no money in perpetrating climate change hysteria. There's no money in that. Like, are you joking? And that's what I say. For anyone who is a big climate change believer in here, show me an example. I mean, I'm sure there is one, but show me multiple examples because I can show you tons of examples. Every researcher who believes in climate change is paid financially based off climate change. If they were climate change skeptics, do you think the grants would be pouring in from the governments? Of course they would. I would bet every dollar I have that if a climate change researcher, if a mass group of climate change researchers came out and said, yeah, we don't think climate change is a big issue, the government's going to stop funding them because why would you fund something that doesn't exist? It makes no sense. So that's kind of the other point I wanted to bring up too. But bringing it full circle, this is kind of where we're at in society, that one point of view is the only one that's ever taught to people. And it's just brainwashing people. And like I say, it's teaching kids not to think critically. And you have a lot of these kids that have terrible anxiety. I mean, there's literally been kids that have committed suicide over this. But yet, does the left have any, second thoughts? Have any of these people ever said, yeah, maybe we've taken this too far? None. No, none of them have ever done that. So it's absolutely crazy. And people on the right do that all the time, like all the time. They like, have we taken this too far? And that's why the left succeeds. That's why the left is so one of the reasons why, not the only reason, one of the reasons why the left is so successful is that the ability to look back and be like, hey, did we go too far? Did we do this right? Should we have gone about this another way? That barely exists on the left, barely. One of the main reasons why the right struggles to get elected is because they're second guessing themselves so much. Like, are we racist? Are we sexist? Like, you have all these, you know, I don't want to call anyone out directly, but I mean, who these most of the people watching this know what I'm talking about. More the establishment conservatives. I mean, Andrew Scheer, good example. I mean, he's one guy I will call out, but um, you know who I'm talking about. Most of the people watching this, but anyway, I wanted to make a video about this because if we want to have a chance in the future, I mean, this is the next generation of parents right here. It's these kids that are in public schools and universities. And if the for every kid that they can brainwash, it's one more person out there that's going to be having kids. It's going to be perpetrating that on their kids. The problem's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. And we need to speak up about it, and we need to make our voices heard because things are completely biased the other way. And if we don't fight back like hell, they're gonna get their way, and they're gonna get their way, and they're gonna make things pretty bad. So um, if you like the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. And like I always want to mention now, I do have a PayPal account now. You can donate to me if you want. I would very much appreciate that. And last thing, stay tuned for more videos, and see you next one.